Hey guys, welcome to Righteous Savages podcast. We have a friend of mine. We've known each other for a few years, Matt Short. We're going to talk about why it seems like men are just missing in culture and society, and some practical things that men can do to optimize their health and get out there and get into the fight, because I think that this is one of the most important things we could talk about nowadays. So come along. We hope you guys enjoy this discussion. All right. Well, Matt, welcome to the podcast. We hope we have a good conversation tonight.
Yeah, glad to be here, and thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to start a conversation about, I think it's something that we've touched on in our podcast before, is just how it seems like guys are just not engaged right now, and why that is with culture, why that is that it seems like, we see a lot of moms out there fighting for some things. I know with COVID, we saw a lot of that, but we just seemed like the guys were just missing in action. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of start this conversation where your heart is and what you see as one of the problems.
Yeah. So I kind of have a different perspective on this. So what we do for a living, we have a chain of low testosterone clinics. So hormone optimization, if you will. So we see a ton of guys that are on a lot of medications, right? So we look at these. I think the statistic now is over 40% of men, adult men, are on these SSRIs or some sort of antidepressant, right? Which just completely numbs your body. And then I think it's also a low testosterone. And if we look at testosterone specifically, testosterone makes effort feel good. Mm-hmm. So if that's true, the opposite of that is true. It's low testosterone, effort feels terrible. So now every time we go do any effort, if it's, hey, let's go for a run, let's go lift some weights, or let's go exercise, it's just awful. So once we have a bad experience with it, it's kind of like touching the hot stove, right? Like, ooh, don't want to do that again. That's terrible. So then they just stop. And then, once we stop, then any hope of producing any more testosterone is kind of gone at that point, once you just get completely sedentary. So I think a combination of both of those things together are resulting in just people not wanting to do effort, not wanting to show up, and not feeling like doing it, and they just don't do it.
Yeah. I agree. I think that one of the things that really showed this more than anything was probably during the pandemic. Oh, we had all these shutdowns, all this stuff where we're like, well, dudes aren't going to sit by and do this.
That's what I thought. I'm like, yeah, here we go.
We're going to be in the streets in 5 minutes, And
it didn't happen, did it?
No, it was just like, okay, we're the guys, and what are we doing? And it seemed like we were just lost.
Yeah, so. And I remember clearly the day that I think I put two and two together. So bear with me. So, me and my wife had that conversation a ton. It's like, why are men just like, yeah, sure, we'll do whatever, even though we knew it was it's crazy, but we're gonna do it. Yeah, well, like, let's not ruffle any feathers. Okay, weird, very unmanly, like kind of like thought this is where we were gonna like not on our turf, Boston Tea Party style.
Yeah,
and I lost my train of thought.
So yeah, we had this societal.
Oh yeah, going back. I remember the exact moment. So we opened our Paducah clinic, and anytime we open a clinic, there's a massive surge. So I get to meet a lot of people, right? And I probably talked to 30 to 40 men that day, and at least 25 of those people were on 3 different medications for anxiety, depression, mood stabilizers. And it was in that order, those 3. And there was a time in my life where I had tried these thinking, doctor, I think you may be depressed with, those actions. And they must kind of push it on you too, of like, you sure you're not sad? Have you ever had a sad thought? And you're like, well, yeah, I have, like
I'm human.
Everybody, right?
Yeah.
And that's the tough part, which not to get segued here, but testosterone and depression have the same exact symptoms. If you look at a chart, it's the same thing. So that's why low T is misdiagnosed so often. But going back to realizing this and my personal experience, and I shared that with these men of, hey, I don't know how your experiences is on these medications, but I'll tell you mine. And I was so numb to emotion in general. I mean, it could have been the worst thing, that devastating news. And you're like, okay, what? Who cares? Nothing mattered. So I started thinking, and I'm like, okay, well, I know how numb I felt. And I'm seeing this particular day, about 25 out of 35 men that I talked to were on all these medications. And I'm like, so later that night, I'm talking to my wife, and I'm like, do you think it's strange that all these men that are coming in are on all three of these medications, which she witnessed it firsthand what it did to me, completely numb. Okay. So you don't care about anything. And then we have during COVID where we were like, we're waiting for all these men to be like, oh, here's where we hold the line, right? And nothing happened. And I'm like, do you think it's odd that no men popped out and really did much about it? And at the same time, all these men that we're talking to are just numb. So I'm like, why all of a sudden in today's age is everyone depressed? I don't know if I know the answer, but like, we're diagnosing people at an alarming rate that they're all depressed. Yeah. And I would ask these people, I'm like, was it your idea or the doctor's idea? I'm legitimately curious. Doctor's idea? Every time, doctor's idea. Not their idea, not, hey, doc, I think I need to get on some drug that just numbs me from my life. And that leads to actually an insane amount of divorce. And the reason why is because you don't care about your relationship anymore.
Right.
Stop caring about your wife and see how long she wants to hang out.
That's a fact.
It's not going to be long. So, and I know a couple of these stories that actually happened in my pretty tight personal life. And I'm like, it's the drugs that are doing it. But when you see like Big Pharma and doctors that are just pumping these medicines, and I'm like, did they ever talk to you about exercising? No. Did they tell you to eat right? No. I'm like, don't you think that's weird? Because the biggest thing we can do is get sunlight and exercise. They didn't tell you to do either of those things, which releases the same hormones that makes us happy. I'm like, SSRIs, it is the inability, like, it's supposed to release serotonin, right? We can do that through sunlight and exercise. But they say, hey, here, take these pills. And instead of going and exercising and getting sunlight and feeling happy and joyful, hey, take this quick pill and just get numb. Mm. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, if you really zoom out and put crazy tinfoil hat on, who is behind it that is wanting to drug our whole society to just not care about anything and be passive with any confrontation at all?
Yeah. And you hate to get all, like you said, conspiracy theory, but I mean, how many doctors out there are really they're in on the game here where it's just drugs all over the place. And I always wondered why there's such a hesitation for most family doctors to even talk at all with dudes about hormone levels or just health related, like, it's, I need to eat right and exercise, but they don't really push it. You would think a doctor would be like, you need to start doing this right now. Here's some health concerns. Here's, whatever you got going on. Instead of, here's the pills and the antidepressants. And you sit back and you think, well, I don't know. There's not a whole lot of stuff that really makes sense other than maybe the obvious, which is, we're here to try and make as much money as possible. You look at
And what's crazy is it's not the doctor. So I'm a very curious person. So I'm like, why? Like I got to put these dots together somehow. And well, obviously we work with doctors daily. So I'm like, why is it that general practitioners don't feel comfortable? And if they do a protocol, it's very incorrect where you're honestly feeling worse. You're taking, one testosterone injection every 2 weeks, and it's supposed to be like every 3 or 4 days. So they're feeling good for a little bit, and then it's crashing. They're feeling a little bit. I've even had, we've had people that have literally came in and are taking one massive injection a month. That's what their doctor said. You hear these crazy things. You're like, okay. They're like, we don't study it. It's like a skim and then you move on. Because now it's more of a symptom, match the drug. Now it's a matching game, right?
Yep.
And it's also not the mid-level's fault, because if you zoom in there, okay, well, I know these conversations. I've said it on so many interviews at this point. The big turnoff is, hey, I'm tired of seeing 70 patients a day. 70 patients. Wow. You work 8 hours. You take lunch, probably go to the bathroom here and there. So how many hours of working to get through 70 patients, right? 5 to 7 minutes. Oh my, okay. So we wait, then you wait 2 hours to get that 5 minutes. But you start thinking like, okay, well, they have to meet a quota because they're getting breathed down their neck. How do we see more patients? How do we make more money? How do we turn them more? How do we turn them? How do we get them coming back? And that's how a lot of these establishments are ran. So the person on the ground level that's prescribing, it's not really their fault, because at the end of the day, they're just like, I need a job. I need to take care of my family, which is fair. But inside, I'm like, it's not right. And for us, that's the easiest position for us to find are these mid-levels, because, hey, where can you get in a scenario where, hey, the only patients you're dealing with are actually people that want to better themselves, or at least they're making the first step forward of, hey, I want to get right and I want to be proactive, versus I call us healthcare, I call that sick care. It is sick care. You don't go there when you're healthy. You don't go there to feel optimal and live your best life. It's, how do I get rid of all these symptoms that I have? Or it's, hey, how do I get this drug that I need? And how do I get these opioids because I'm addicted, or, whatever the scenario is. These things are just super common in those settings. But
yeah, well, hopefully, I hope that somehow, and I think it's kind of turning the corner where people talking about hormone therapy for men and women, like somehow it does become more mainstream. I mean, it's been this secret thing for so long that was always associated with abuse. Like it was this terrible thing. And I remember, state my age here a little bit, back in the mid 90s, there was a magazine called Muscle Media 2000.
Okay.
And a dude named Bill Phillips, who ran EAS and Metrics and all these supplement companies. The magazine was a big hit because they actually talked about steroid use and how to do it in the magazine. And it was like, is this legal?
Can they print this stuff?
Are they allowed? And they came up, and it was kind of geared towards bodybuilding, but the point was that they tried to make is that with doctors' care, this stuff is probably safer than most people make out to be. That was just the kind of the basic starting point statement. And even saying that was like, man, this is a shocker.
Yeah.
And then what do we not know? What are people not telling us? And that was kind of, 25, 30 years ago, whatever. And now, we're starting to see, and the cool thing is there's the internet now. People, you can go to a doctor's office and they can tell you one thing, and then you can go home and probably learn more on your own than you can from your own doctor. So what people are hearing from, hormone facilities like yours it's not secret info. It's not, here's this stuff that you don't know about. People know, people do research. People are figuring this stuff out. And so my hope is that this does turn into something where people can find the niche of doctor care for what they need. They find it, to meet the needs of deficiencies, whatever, and can start getting, it's almost like your own personalized, way of getting treatment on for certain things, because you've got it figured out. You know where the source is, you know where to go, you know what it's all about in advance. It's almost like you've got your own specialist, not some 90-year-old doctor in a family practice center. Like that's old time. Yeah. And now hopefully this is part of the new wave of how guys are going to start getting treatment.
Yeah, I think that really if we look at the way that you said this earlier, is that doctors, and it's not necessarily the doctors, but it's the people in control of the doctors that are causing this. And I think that if you go back, 15 years to when Obamacare was passed.
Yeah.
People don't realize this, and I'm not trying to get into a political argument, but when they passed that actually ended up corporatizing all of these little practices got swallowed up by bigger corporate level, like a SIH bought out this little practice, or and then somebody else buys them out from a big city someplace else, and then you have all of a sudden the people that are actually telling them, you prescribe this, you prescribe that, you can't do any experiment. My father, when he went through cancer, he didn't want to do chemo. He was like, is there anything experimental? Well, you have to do the chemo. This is our protocol. So they set these protocols. You have to take the poison before you can try this new thing and us pay for it.
And isn't chemo like 97% fail rate?
Yes.
My dad went through it as well.
Basically, if you look back at it, it's basically some of the chemicals they use is what they use in mustard gas in World War I. So it's like, I want to put that in my body.
I watched it firsthand, with my father. And unrecognizable like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah. So, and I'm not saying that, there have been people that have survived with that.
Sure.
I'm not saying that but the fact that we can't do anything that is not a normal protocol, we can't treat people individually. It's all about, you have to follow this blueprint that was handed out by a corporate person to make money.
And here's the biggest question we get too. You guys accept insurance? No. And people are blown away, like, how dare you not accept insurance? I'm like, look, if you accept insurance for our service, we now don't have control. We now don't get, the insurance company, which just wants a ton of money, that's who's making the decisions. So optimal is gone. And like, I think people are waking up to the fact that traditional healthcare is dying. Look, I get we have to have it. We have to have hospitals. We break our arm. We need to go get help, have a heart attack, all these things. I get it. What I don't get is everybody expects insurance, and if they don't have it, the government should give it to them. Why they just beat the living crap out of their body on a daily basis. And going back to your point earlier about, why don't they talk about diet? Why don't they talk? Because it takes so much to get somebody to do something. It's mind blowing. And we deal with this too, because we offer that. We offer True Health, which you literally get a personal trainer, you get a nutritionist. So we have somebody looking at your blood work. We have somebody looking at, here's your exact diet. Here's how we can get these numbers down. There's so many things that we can do from a help ourselves standpoint of like, look, no one's coming to save your health. No one.
Yeah.
It's you and you only. You can have the best insurance in the world. If you eat McDonald's 3 times a day, it doesn't matter. Yeah. You're poisoning your body 24/7. And that's what people don't get. And it's like, it's becoming almost impossible not to, in one way, shape, or form. And kind of the easy secret that I try to do, like less ingredients, like try to go to the store and buy single name things. Like if it's beef, get beef.
Yeah.
Don't get frozen beef that has 90 preservatives and all these things. And the beef was made 2 years ago. Like those are the differences. And like, try to buy as fresh as you can. That's a whole nother rabbit hole, but they don't have time to provide what they need to. And because what we provide is fitness, nutrition, and accountability being the biggest piece. People need accountability. People need to know that somebody's going to swat their hand when they reach for the donut, or, hey, I gained a pound or 2 pounds over the last couple of days. Hey, get back on track. Yeah. Like an instant, like, hey, we all go off a little bit, but like get back on. And what's shocking, not shocking, we've had people lose over 100 pounds, 80 pounds. And once they got into that, like I've seen people come back in where I didn't even recognize them. They've lost so much weight. I'm like, is that you? This is amazing. And what's incredible about the people that actually put in the work, hey, give me the plan and I will follow it, because people do get to their breaking point of like, enough is enough. Yeah. I'm tired of not being there for my family, for myself, for my kids. Like this is getting crazy, and they will make a change. So we love getting people at that point, bringing them in, because it's a daunting task to go learn health and fitness. Okay, never participated. It's very overwhelming, right? Yeah. So cool. Come to us and we give you the game plan, and it's super easy to follow. But we still can't eat the food for you. We still can't exercise for you.
Right.
Like that will always be on you. And I think a lot of people just need to look at the mirror and no matter what your case is or how bad your case is, like it's your fault and it's okay. It's all fixable. Like we have to accept responsibility for that and not think that the government's going to come in or health insurance is going to come in and keep us healthy.
Yeah, man, I don't know if you realize what you said a minute ago, but you're basically describing healthcare without insurance, where the system is you offer a service.
It's health assurance.
Yes, you offer a service to people that's going to improve their health. It has nothing to do with insurance. Mm-hmm. People decide, is this of value to me or not? Yep, I think it is, and they pay it. People are I'm losing my mind when it comes to expensive stuff, and I sound like an old grandpa talking about it. My wife went to the ER a few weeks ago. She came back from a trip, got off the airplane, was just violently ill, drove a couple hours to Southern Illinois back to the ER. We were in there for about 2 hours. They're like, drink some Gatorade and take some Tylenol. You got a virus. There's nothing you can do. $9,000. Now, of course, our insurance is paying for that, but that's why that cannot continue. And when people start to realize, who knows what healthcare, maybe with this revolution of, necessity breeds and is a mother of all invention and something like that. Maybe I don't have the term just right, but essentially, people are going to realize, you know what? There might actually be a different way to do this, where I can go to the doctor and get a checkup, and I don't need insurance. Here's $50, and I didn't spend $1,000 on my insurance premiums this month or two. For me, I'm retired. I was a cop for 29 years. I retired. They don't say, "Hey, here's your insurance plan, bro. Thanks for working for 29 years. You're on your own." So insurance costs $2,000 a month.
Yep, I was in that boat. We were paying $2,500 for a family of 5, and then when I went to the doctor, it was full price, right? So, which was, I remember, oh my gosh, our deductible was like $10,000 and paying $2,500 a month. It was absurd because people are like, "Oh, business owner, you got it made." I'm like, no. You get the crap end of a lot of sticks, and insurance is one of them.
Yep.
And there was a point where we're like, we have doctors on payroll. We don't use it. Like, we'll just go on our own. And we ended up getting, it's through Christian Ministries, and what they do, it's a health.
Metashare?
Yeah.
Metashare. Yeah. Boom. And I realized, I'm like, how can they get this so cheap? So I dive in, and I'm like, and the first time our kids needed something at the doctor, and we go in and they're like, yeah, it's like $25. Oh, I didn't know you were cash paid. I'm like, that's it? They're like, yeah, it's cash paid. I'm like, we were getting billed like $500 to the, oh yeah, that's insurance price. And you're like, So insurance gets $500, but if it's cash, it's $25. So what they do, they just take that $25 bill. They reimburse you for the $25. I'm like, oh, they're hitting that low 1/10 of the price or more. That's why the premium's so cheap. I think it's $400 for a family of 5.
Yeah, dude, I gotta look into that. I've had friends of mine. I've had friends of mine mention that before, and you hear I've heard the commercials on TV, and you're like, I don't know. It's not insurance. People get scared to death. Like they
freak out, and I'm like, the cash price, your jaw will drop, and you're like, that's all. But what's crazy is nobody knows cash prices either. So I was having this knee issue forever. I go over to SI Orthopedic, and they're like, oh, you need, MRI, all that stuff. I'm like, cool, how much is that? They're like, I have no idea. I'm like, well, can you ask somebody? They're like, okay, yeah, we'll go ask. Comes back like 20 minutes later, it's like, no one knows the price of an MRI. And I'm like, isn't that like all you do here? They're like, yeah. And no one knows what the price is. And they're like, no. So go ahead and come on back and we'll do it. I'm like, hey, it's like, what? Do you buy a car? And then you're like, we'll just send you the bill in the mail. We have no idea how much it is. Like, no. Like, tell me the price or I'm not doing it. They never knew and I left. $200. And he said, I have no idea. That'll be $200. And that's what it was.
All they know is
that
it's
even know
code
cash
375.
You're telling me it was $200 for an MRI because you told me?
No. It was $200 for him to say, I have no idea what it is.
Oh, right.
And I'm like, thank you. I didn't either. That's why I came here, But it is wild. The more we learn on that side, of insurance. I'm like, I don't think it's a fixable thing. It's a new path that has to go around it, which is, what we're striving to do. And I think, we're opening our personal 4th clinic right now. And we have 2 franchises as well, but we're seeing thousands of patients, and it's just booming from word of mouth. And it's cool to see people finally getting a little bit proactive and it's just word of mouth, because it's, hey, Bob goes in. Bob is a totally different man in 30 to 60 days. Now he's got his zest for life back. Cool. Well, now his friends are like, I want to be like that. I didn't know that was an option. And people usually like, oh my gosh, that's expensive. And back to your $2,000 a month for insurance that you probably won't even use, or we don't. Now the caveat to that is people abuse it as well. Stub toe ER.
Yeah.
There was a whole thing with the city. I don't know if you saw it, like Marion, and I'm like, I get both sides. Like, you have the mayor that's wanting to reduce the price of healthcare. Like, hey, we got to find a solution. Like, you can't afford it. Like, you can't spend $2,000-$3,000 per employee a month on insurance. Like, it's insane. But you have also people that are racking up millions of dollars because what you said, you were at the ER for what? 20 minutes, 30 or whatever, and you got $9,000 bill. It's that. So like when these people are using it on it, oh, kid's got a cough. ER, like those aren't emergency situations. Or you go in these fly by night, like little, walk-in clinic styles. They're able to bill insurances more for these kind of things. And that's why you see these urgent cares popping up. They're little cash cows because they can bill the insurance way higher. So if it's 11 times Medicare instead of 3 or 4 times, so it's just not it's never in the best interest of the end consumer, and that's kind of where we're at, to be honest with you. So.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing that we're dealing with, because the other thing that's happening at the same time is we're getting more and more unhealthy as a culture, because you see stuff like Sports Illustrated putting people that are obese on the front and saying, yeah, this is healthy. And all of this stuff that is being fed by culture that's saying, yeah, what you said was unhealthy, what we've known for years was unhealthy, is now, oh, no. Just stop that shaming, stop doing all this because you're telling people they're unhealthy.
I mean, let's talk about the food pyramid that came out.
Right.
What was on top? Was it like cereal or
grains and all of this stuff? It
was literally upside down kind of.
Yeah. Don't eat any meat.
Steak, terrible for you. Protein's bad.
Yep.
Processed sugars and junk, the best for you.
I could show you like 4 guys right now that only eat meat, and they look like the healthiest human beings on the face of the planet.
Yep.
And they post their blood work, and it's perfect. And it's like, maybe not everybody can do something like a carnivore, but man, I think that, I don't know. You go into this, and it's this walking down the road of conspiracy theories. But if you look at in the 1980s when the FDA and all of this stuff started pushing out those food pyramids, and you look at who they were getting money from, it was all these cereal companies and all these places that made this processed food.
I just watched a video of the CEO of Kellogg's talk about how they're going to market cereal for dinner, as it's like a cool thing for your family to have just bowls of cereal for dinner.
Yeah, I saw that.
And he was talking about how it was such a cheap food. But I'm like, if you have a little bit of a business brain and you heard that conversation, he was talking about how can we get you to consume more cereal?
Yeah.
Yep. Because it's all about money. It's all about money.
Yeah, like, for a fact it is not healthy to eat cereal. You don't have to have a dietetics degree to know that, like, I don't think that's accurate. Like, eat a steak dinner versus cereal.
Yeah.
What do we do? Why are we selling this as like it's cool? And like the commercial was Tony the Tiger, like, yeah, this is great, kids. And it's like,
yeah, I mean, honeycomb is delicious.
Yeah.
However,
it's delicious.
You can't say
sure.
Everything's expensive, so just have a bowl of Frosted Flakes and things will be okay. And it's just that, like you said, it's an easy way out. We had an idea for a T-shirt. Comfort is the enemy. People want to be really, really super comfortable all the time, and what we see is resiliency goes way, way down, and we need to again become a culture. At least guys, leaders, men in your communities, your families. We need to be resilient to where we can withstand, some health issues. You're talking about people using the ER as healthcare. There are thousands. You talk to any doctor that works in the ER, dozens of people every day come in for healthcare abusing the ER system. Like, why are you got the sniffles?
Clogs it up for people that actually need it. Like,
you've got the sniffles. Why are you here? What's going on? Why do you need all of this help all the time? Everything has to be somebody doing something for you or helping you. I was talking the other day about, working in the police department. There's a lot of people that work years, 10, 20 years, and they don't have any sick time left. They never want to come to work because work is just not fun, or it's hard, or maybe they do have 12 kids and they're sick a lot. I mean, there are some real issues why you might not need it, but there's also a lot of people that just, I don't feel good today, so I'll just stay home. And that's a big problem. That's going to be a huge problem for people that are going to be trying to run all kinds of businesses, you name it, whatever, being a leader in your family. You got to be able to do hard things. You got to be able to withstand pressure and adversity. And somehow we've got to start teaching people and modeling, how to do that. And I guess one of the best ways is just talking to people, being able to stand up and be a voice out loud, not just sitting back and not saying anything, but actually telling people and showing people, here's how you do it. It could be through health and fitness. Mm-hmm. It could be through other ways of coaching and mentoring. Mm-hmm. But we need people to start being resilient in life so that we can stand up and withstand the storms and the tough times. When a marriage gets tough, you can't just tap out and be done and start all over 50 times in your life. You got to be able to work through those things. And that's just one little example. But somehow, we want to try and be a voice for guys out there to, help build, resiliency, build a brotherhood of people that can support each other, regardless of our differences. We're not all going to be the same. We're all going to have different opinions on things. But it's funny how when one person stands up and says, hey, this is how, I believe about one thing, the next guy's like, yeah, me too, or I need some help with this situation. And if we just sit silent, everybody just kind of melts into oblivion instead of, we need people, not just us. We need everybody to start to stand up and help each other out, voice our opinions, be encouraging, be a role model for your own family, for kids, whoever whatever the case is. And so hopefully we can start to build people into more, especially guys, to be more resilient. We need people to join the military. Nobody wants to join the military anymore. Yep. And the people that are joining are not in shape. You're like, we need a military. That's what the military is for, is to go do bad things to bad people. Yeah. We need that. There's certain jobs out there, certain functions and roles for men that we need guys to be resilient that way. And hopefully we can start to stand up and change things a little bit just through starting out with our voice and letting people know, the truth about, whether it's health and fitness or whether it's about faith or whatever. Be honest, not be afraid to start those conversations.
Yep. I completely agree with that. I think that really where we're at a tipping point, I think, with our culture, because I read a statistic and it made I had to double check it. I think currently that it's like 60% of the military is overweight.
Yeah.
That is
have you ever
insane.
Just paid attention sometimes when they do these little flyby things on the news and stuff, and you like pause and you're like, oh my gosh, that's our front line? Yeah. Just a bunch of scared kids. Yep. That are out of shape. And you're like, oh my goodness. And I know I'm not speaking for the whole military. I know there's a lot of beasts out there. Yeah. But I think they are lowering the barrier of entry of maybe less push-ups is fine. Yeah. I don't know.
What happens in law enforcement too? There's police departments that don't have any physical fitness standards anymore. Yep. You pass a test to get into the academy, and that might be the very last time you ever take a physical fitness test ever again. And can you make it through your whole career? Yeah, I mean, people do, but you see, all the health problems associated with, not doing that. You see problems develop with not setting a standard. Like, how come we don't have a standard for this? And if you don't have a standard, then it just all goes to nothing, and performance always drops. Performance always goes down if there's not a bar, if there's not a standard to try and
that word you just said, standard. and you were talking about a t-shirt earlier. I'm going to tie these in. I was on a run the other day, and it's our next t-shirt that we're dropping for Stacked, and it's called Standards Over Conditions. And it just came to me when I was running, because I'm like, man, standards is everything. And we talk about that with our leaders in our companies all the time, because we have a very high standard. And the lack of standard as men, like, you hold the standard for your house.
Oof, yeah.
So when you look in the mirror, I can tell you this, and then this is not being mean. This is, find a full-length mirror and stand in front of it naked and ask yourself what your standard is. And you're going to get an answer you probably don't like. And that's not meant to make you feel bad. It should for a minute, but like, standard is what you tolerate. So if you're tolerating your standard slipping, and it goes with everything, like we explain to our guys why you don't walk past the piece of trash laying on the floor. Because the moment you do, you are slipping your personal standard. Yeah. So like, don't get in a habit of, oh, that's not my job, and about your job. That's about you holding the standard to you. And that's probably the biggest thing that is not getting taught. Because I'll be honest with you, all of our guys at Stacked are young men. They're young men. And the amount of young men that we get that are never taught any of these things. There's never been a conversation about what a standard even is, why it's important, because the fathers don't have them either. So you're not passing anything down. Okay? But I will Tony Robbins has a saying too, you want to change your life, change your standards. And like, people just say it casually, but I'm like, do you process what that means? It means expect more out of yourself. Mm-hmm. So if it's okay, because I guarantee you, let's rewind until we were 5. Go ask any 5-year-old what car they want to drive when they get older, what they want to do with their life when they get older. It's always the most amazing, ambitious things, right?
I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a police officer. I want to be a basketball star.
They want to drive a Lamborghini. Yeah. They want to be something. And going through life, like, because I'll tell you what, life, and I battle this on a daily basis from a lot of people, and it's, people want to put limitations on you and say, like, hey, that's not because once you start elevating yourself, it separates a lot of things in your life, because there's going to be a lot of people that don't like it.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? And a lot of times it's, speaking to men, hey, why aren't you grabbing that beer on Thursdays like we always do when we go bowling? I don't do that anymore. Mm-hmm. I raised my standard. That doesn't serve me. So like, there are a lot of hard things, because the entrepreneur journey for me has been, I've rebirthed myself like every 3 years. Like, it's crazy. And the reason why I look back, I'm like, man, why did all these things change? Why is life so hard right now? Life gets way harder when you raise your standard. So a lot of people, even if they attempt to raise the standard, they're instantly met with resistance that they don't like.
Yep.
And tying this back into hormones, well, you need that testosterone up, because it's not an easy fight.
Right.
It's going to take a lot of effort. And if we don't have that effort to give, the standard stays low. And then guess what? Your kids don't know. And then you're passing on nothing. And I think one thing that we teach our family is we do hard things. Oh, Mom, it's hard. Oh, Dad, it's hard. Good.
Yep.
We do hard things here. We like it. But I can back that up, because they see Dad go in the garage for a 5-hour bike ride. That's screaming in pain. Dad, why are you making all those noises out there? Because it hurt. Then why are you doing it? Because it's making me better. Okay. But they just know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that what you said about fathers and how men are not being taught those lessons, because I think that there are certain lessons that only a father can teach their children.
Yep.
Both boys and girls. Mm-hmm. We teach our boys how to be men. We teach our boys what the standard is when you become a man. We teach our girls what to look for in a man. in a mate. And one of the things, me and my wife have had many conversations about this is, my son wanted to get into basketball. And I told him, I said, if you want to do this, I'm never going to tell you, a lie. I'm never going to tell you you're good when you're not. You're going to hear some things that you're not going to want to hear. But I'm trying to inspire you to to excel at something you say you want to excel at. So we've had some hard conversations after a game where he wasn't putting in the effort. Hey, buddy, you need to do better. And you know what's amazing? Our relationship has grown.
Yep.
Like he comes to me for so many more things than he used to because he respects that I'm trying to make him better. And I told him, I said, this is a life lesson. This is not just about basketball. Teaching you to do the work when nobody else is watching is a life lesson. That is paramount to becoming a man because people aren't going to be watching. People aren't going to be watching when you're putting in those extra hours doing that stuff after everybody else went home, because hey, you run a business, you run multiple businesses, you know about those long hours, those late nights, trying to meet a deadline, trying to do all of this stuff. And that's lessons we have to impart to our sons and our daughters is like the effort, the juice is worth the squeeze, but it's not going to be easy. Nothing worth of value is easy.
Yeah. And I think the efforts so our oldest is 8 and she does gymnastics. She's done it since she's 18 months old. And once she started actually competing, those do get hard because I'm like, hey, we've been doing it for fun. Now we're competing. Do you know the difference? We've had a lot of learning lessons. And there's only been a few times that I've got onto her. And I'm like, I will never say anything about I don't care what place you get.
You're right.
I care what effort you put in. And I will get
100%.
Daddy gets angry when I see lack of effort. I'm like, we're not going out there to compete and giving no effort. Like, we'll be done. Like, do you understand? And now she's on such a good team. Now she's getting that competitiveness to her.
Yep.
Now it's, hey, Dad, I've done my workouts all month. Like, oh, the trick is now way easier, right? And I'm like, see, you put in the work. And it's making sure we push our kids through that tough time to build, but also reminding them like, hey, this reward you're getting now is from that work and tying that in and knowing that like, hey, when I do put effort in, I do get something back out of it, and
I think
sports in general, I think like that is where you teach it.
It's a great place to teach kids. And I think that really that ties into what you said about, a dad being an example, because if we're the dudes that are sitting there that are, 40 pounds overweight, with our beer guts and all this stuff and saying, hey, get out there and do the work. I'm not going to put in any effort, but I want you to. And we're yelling and belittling. We talked about this in one of our recent episodes of like him making a dad come out and catch grounders. And the guy couldn't do it when he's yelling at his kid, why can't you catch that ball? Well, our kids need to
Dad,
see us
why can't you catch the ball?
Right.
It's had a lot more years.
And it's like,
he didn't complain about his kid much longer. At least that day.
Yeah.
At least that day he kind of was quiet for a
But
minute.
I think if we're going to lead our kids through that, we have to be blazing the trail too. And we have to be showing that.
That's
effort.
everything because we hear it a lot and you see it. There, if you've ever been to a sporting event ever, there is a parent that is yelling. Probably shouldn't be yelling because I'm like, you're demanding excellence, and I'm not seeing anything excellent over here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and that's fine, but like sometimes they're so hard on their kids, and I'm like, you expect so much out of your kids and nothing out of you.
Yeah.
Like, and they don't hear. If we have kids, we know they don't listen, but they watch.
Yeah.
They really do watch. Like, our youngest daughter is 2 years old now, and she's in that monkey see, monkey do. Well, her monkey do is, look, she's doing push-ups. I'm not kidding. Like she's 2 and she's like, yeah, like she thinks it's awesome. And she's, working out with mommy or whatever. And, but I'm like, they don't know any different, but now like our oldest is getting old enough to like, oh, she's seeing what happens. But like, I'm very truthful with her. Like she always wants to go to McDonald's after, and I'm like, we're not celebrating with poison. Like I straight up say that. And they're like, you say that to your kid? I'm like, yes. Why would you? That's the truth.
Yep.
But I'm like, does Daddy eat it? No.
Yep.
Like, I'm not telling you to do anything like, hey, we're going to eat healthy. Hey, I'll make desserts. And, we make protein ice cream and the Ninja Creamy and like she eats that or whatever. So like, we still try to expose them to a lot. And I'm not saying, we're perfect because we're not. But I think, you know, the 80-20 or 90-10 rule is good of like 80%'s got to be good. Like, you know, we need to at least work out 6 days a week. I think you need to move your body 7 days a week for sure. But yeah, we don't have to be perfect. Like, I get people need to live, and, you know, we like going out to eat too, which like I still get like, you know, steak or baked potato or whatever. But like, what's magical, and going back to where we were talking about people losing 80 pounds, 100 pounds, you know, you always think it's going to be the weight loss that they're so excited about, and it never is. Like, what's the best thing that has happened to you since then? It's like, I feel so good. And I'm like, yeah, when you're not poisoning your body 24/7, like your body's trying to run off complete crud.
Yep.
Like your body hates all of that stuff. Your body's inflamed. It's not digesting. Like there's so many bad things that are happening, and you're like, luckily our body's pretty resilient.
Yep.
Because some of these people that I hear their nutrition, I'm like, and your body's still working. It's kind of crazy. But you know, even if we can get people, you know, eating right for 7 days, 10 days, they're already feeling magical. And it's like, and I always try to tie that back in of like, even on exercise, everybody knows how good you feel after you exercise. So I'm like, if you know what the end result is going to be, and there's a little price, like, okay, cool. Well, pay the price, get that good feeling. Me personally, if I have a lazy day or whatever, I feel the worst.
Yeah.
Like at the end of that day, I'm like, bummer. I just like, it eats me up. And I'm like, so I don't do rest days anymore.
Yeah.
Like even if it's like rest day, maybe it's not a big effort, but like we're still going on bike rides with the kids or walking or something physically active and getting sunshine. And like, I think people discredit the things that are readily available. Like surely the answer can't be outside. And people are like, oh, I can't afford to work out. I'm like, you can't afford to walk outside?
Yeah.
Get on your feet and like just get some sun, get some fresh air. And you know what we try to teach our people that are getting on a healthy path of like, when you start your morning with blood flow, sunlight, fresh air, and a little bit of gratitude, like do not pick up your phone, and please do not get on social media in the morning. Go get in your thoughts and just look around your life and count your blessings.
Yep.
Count your blessings while you're getting, and I'm like, that morning routine, I know a lot of people are big on morning routines, and I'm like, that one for me is, I'm not going to have a bad day.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have a bad day when I start that way, but it's free. And it's like, I think people like, they're looking for all these answers everywhere else, and they don't think that like the answer to a lot of happiness and a lot of issues that they have going on is literally available whenever you want it, and it's free.
Yeah. Yeah. God's creation's free.
Yeah.
Go out and enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's so interesting what you said about kids. You know, they're really watching and paying attention to you. So not only are they copying physically what you do, you know, mimicking, you know, push-ups and all that kind of stuff, but they also have a desire to mimic what you believe, how you treat people. Are you nice to mommy? Do you hold the door open for people? You know, they're also soaking in all of the big picture things about, you know, the mindset and your attitude and how you treat people. And that's what is, man, that is so critical what kids are missing today, because they're getting that from the social media. They're just, you know, on TV or whatever. And parents, I think I look back, I got 3 boys that are all grown now. And I look back at the opportunities. You know, my kids have turned out great. A couple of them are married. They've all, you know, got jobs. But I look back at opportunities I've probably missed to sit down and have conversations, or to teach them certain things about, you know, our beliefs or you know, how to handle these situations. And I tried to be a lead by example type of guy. Well, just kind of watch me and how you know, treat, you know, your mom and those type of things, and they'll pick it up, and they did. But there's also so many opportunities for us to actually teach and have one-on-one conversations and tell them, you know, personal things. And I think, you know, I want a lot of guys to really, you know, don't miss those opportunities. Take it from somebody like me who's got grown kids. You know, once they get past, you know, that teenage level, the opportunities for that is very small, very limited. And so the influence that we need to have on men with our kids, it should happen very early. And it doesn't mean you're brainwashing your kids to just think like you, but they're your kids. You love them more than anything on the planet. Why wouldn't we want to teach them the right way to live, how we believe, what we believe in, what's important and why? And
because if you don't, someone else will, and who's that person going to be?
Yeah, it's going to be the college you're going to,
or Disney.
Yeah. Hey, I've been to Disney a couple times lately, so.
Well, and I think that we look at it's true. As we're all men of faith. We believe in God. But I think that that's a paramount part of it too, is to be that example. Because biblically, we're taught to be active, to be, engaged, to work. And work takes effort, And when the Bible was written, there wasn't a lot of office jobs. I don't know if anybody knows this. It was all, it's like we didn't have cubicles back then.
Yeah.
And so when they talk about work, they're talking about work. You're going to go work with your hands. You're going to go do hard things. And that is blessed. And so if you're doing hard things, you're going to see blessings. It's just a natural thing. You're going to see physical blessings. You're going to see blessings in your relationship. It's going to grow. People are going to look up to you. People are going to follow your leadership. And I think that really that's kind of a way to segue into this. What is it that we need to see men doing in culture, in their families, and I think it starts in the family, really. And then what do we do culturally? What do we do in our jobs to engage and not be these sedentary slugs that are okay, govern me harder, or do this, or whatever you want to do, it's fine. I'm not going to stand up. I'm just going to play my Call of Duty, and it's like,
can I share a quote real quick?
Absolutely.
This is actually from, and I feel like every man on the planet should read this book. It's by Marcus Aurelius. And it says, concentrate every minute like a Roman, like a man, on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness, tenderly, willingly, with justice, and on freeing yourself from all other distractions. Yes, you can, if you do everything as if it were your last thing you were doing in your life, and stop being aimless. Stop letting your emotions override what your mind tells you. Stop being hypocritical, self-centered, irritable. You see how few things you have to do to live a satisfying and reverent life. If you can manage this, that's all even the gods can ask of you. And that's book meditation. So I think it's cool that literature is 2,000 years old.
And still very, very
crazy.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And have you ever heard the stories how he literally had a slave just basically humble him all day? So he literally had a slave follow him, telling him you're nothing. Which he wanted that balance of I know I'm the ruler, but tell me I'm nothing. And that kept him bound. I'm like, that's wild that you were at that level and you're can you just follow me and talk crap to me all day and tell me I suck. Just to keep me balanced. Okay. But no, and that's luckily, I lost my dad at 20, and I was lucky enough to get taught a lot of things when I was younger and developing. And one of those things was just, he always said, if you're going to do something, do it with your best ability, or don't do it. And he hammered me on that my entire life. And it is true. And you don't really understand why it's so important until you grow up later and you're like, man, that was honestly probably the most solid advice. But it just seems like no one has shame in doing a bad job at things anymore. Yeah. There's no shame. Men, I feel like men used to be shameful of oh, I'm not doing that. And now it's just who cares? I'll just suck at everything. And it doesn't bother me. I'm it should bother you.
Yeah.
What was your question? I'm sorry. Go back to your question.
We were talking about what is it that men need to do to get engaged in their families, in culture, and their spheres of influence, because not all of us are as influential. Not everybody's as influential as us.
Oh,
no,
sure.
No, but
where's that guy that can walk around all day and tell us?
Yeah, exactly. I'll get my 11-year-old to roast us all day.
He's great at that.
He does it already anyway.
But what is it that we need to see out of men in culture today. And I think like we were leading up to that with that quote and how we need men to be engaged in everything.
Yeah,
and to put forth effort.
A lot of
find their
people don't
potential.
think that, like, I just hear a lot like, oh, I'm not a leader. Who am I to do? I'm like, everyone's a leader.
Mm-hmm.
The definition of leader is influencing people. Like, do you not influence your household? Like, do you not influence your wife? Like, I hope so. But normally, I always, I relate everything kind of back to fitness, but it's like, if you're burnout and people are just like, I just have no urge to get to the gym, or I just go to the gym and, you know, I do one set and I'm like, why am I here? I'm like, well, clearly you feel like you lack purpose, right? Well, normally you don't have a goal. So like, if you don't have a goal, then you don't have purpose. And like, without purpose, there's no traction. So a lot of people, you know, and I asked my mom this the other day, and she kind of gave me an answer that I was like, that kind of is almost the saddest thing I've heard. Cause I'm like, once you retire, like, what are you going to do? I don't know. I've never thought about it. I'm like, you've never thought about what you want to do? And she said, no. And I'm like, she's always serving everyone else. But without a goal, you don't know what to do. So you just do nothing. And a lot of men like, hey, what's your goal? They don't have it. Like they're, I'll just wait for the weekend for the work to be done. And you're like, that's what you're looking forward to. That's it. Like, you're just hoping time passes Monday through Friday to be able to do nothing on the week. So there's no real goal. And I'm not saying you have to be this crazy ambitious guy. It's like, our family is going to climb this mountain and, you know, do these crazy feats all the time. But they don't have like you were saying, like a standard in a household, and not having core values. Like, we have core values for our company. We have core values for our house. And you have to have a North Star, obviously, to keep you aligned. So if you have no vision or purpose or goal, well, those are kind of all the reasons that people do get out of bed in the morning. Mm-hmm. If I don't have those, I mean, I wake up because people are always like, oh man, Monday sucks. I'm like, I love Mondays. I love Mondays because like I have a different set of goals Monday through Friday, you know, than I do on the weekend. Weekend is family time. We finally have some balance after 10 years of business ownership of we can survive sometimes on the weekends and actually focus on our family, which has been amazing. But Monday through Friday, for me, it's go time. Like, there's a lot of people that depend on us. So we have these goals, and our goals now are more, it's not personal. It's more, hey, how do we get these guys successful as well behind us? And that stuff fires you up. But what I also noticed in that shift of, if you think you're motivated to get yourself better, you have no idea what kind of energy you get when you're trying to bring others with you. It's a whole different energy. Mm-hmm. Because like, now I can't, if I give up, well, I'm not just giving up on me. I'm giving up on this whole team, right? Mm-hmm. I'm giving up on my family. So I do attach a lot of things to this extreme outcomes of like, if I skip this workout, like every business is out of business. Like, you know, if I don't go on this date night, like my family's crashing. Nope. Like, you have to make it happen. But I attach these just obscene things that obviously aren't true, but I'm like, it makes me move.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I don't want to lose that edge of, it doesn't matter if I skip this workout. It does matter. Yeah. Because you're gonna skip this one, then you're gonna skip 2 more next week, and then you're gonna skip this thing at work that you should have done, and you're gonna skip this thing with your kid that you should have had. And like, now we're in the habit of skipping things. And I'm like, we don't skip things. We make our list, we do the list. But without preparation, without goals, like I've been at that stage in my life in my early 20s. Like, I'm just existing, and years flew by, and I'm like, nothing progressed. Yeah. I learned nothing. My life stayed the exact same. And I'm like, wow, it's almost like if I don't do anything, nothing happens, you know? And then you just kind of have this aha moment of like, but if I do this stuff and I kind of get organized and have a mission, and that could be as small as, hey, I want to lose 30 pounds so I can play with my kids. Like, I was talking to a guy the other day that was 500 pounds, and, you know, he was like talking about how he can't even hold his kid. Mm. And I'm like, so why are you still eating? Like, genuine question. And I asked permission. I'm like, do you want the truth, or do you want me to like get fluff that everybody else does, which is why you're still 500 pounds? Like, no, give me the truth. Okay. do you think God put you on this earth to be 500 pounds and not be able to move and not play with your kids? Like, do you think that's his purpose for you? I doubt it. And I'm like, no. Like, why would he put us here if it was just like, go to your room and eat until you explode? That's not living. That serves no purpose here.
Right.
Like, I don't think there would be earth if God just wanted to skip this whole step. Like, we'd just go straight there, right?
Yeah.
Like, what? But like, he never even thought about it of like, what is my purpose? You know? And it's like, you have to dig deeper. And honestly, most people don't even think about it.
Yeah.
So me and my wife has this question all the time. I'm like, well, if people aren't even thinking of it, they're obviously not going to change their mind because it's not even a remote thought. So like, how do you get the initial thought in their head of like, you're in control. You can go find 1,000 people on the internet real quick that went from 500 to 180. It's doable. You know, it's doable. Mm-hmm. But yet you're sitting here like it's not a thing. You're the only person in your way.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm like, that place right down the road, True Tet, literally, we do it every day. We're the best at it. So I'm like, there's a solution right down the road. You could do it on your own. There's a million options, but here you are. I'm like, no one cares about your pity party. Poor me. Like, okay, I get it. Tell your kid. I've said, go home and tell your 5-year-old that daddy's not going to be here very long because he can't control what goes in his mouth. Why is that more important? So I'm like, when you go grab that Oreo, think of him. Think of your purpose here. Yeah. Think of something bigger than just, it's just another Oreo. Who cares? You have to change. And you can change right now. You don't have to wait till tomorrow. You don't have to wait till Monday. You don't have to wait till New Year's. Right now. Not another bite. And I'm like, if you can't say no, throw the whole freaking house away. Yeah. Throw it all away. You can't say no.
Yeah. Yep.
Tell your wife, hey, we're getting on board. I'm doing this.
Yeah. And I think that's man, so just a quick shout out. My wife has recently gone on a weight loss journey, lost actually, I think to date, like 38 pounds in the last few months.
Amazing.
And it's really awesome. But it's also like we've had these little conversations. She's like, I didn't even realize the amount of calories that I was consuming in this and the discipline that I didn't have. And now I see her, she's like, no, I need to, I want something sweet. I'm going to grab this protein bar that's way healthier than what I was eating before. And it's like, wow, that brownie from Applebee's was 1,600 calories.
Yep.
And I'm adding that onto a regular meal. You know, and it was just seeing that change in somebody's mindset. And that's really what it takes. You have to be able to say, okay, my goal is to be healthy. My goal is to pursue a healthier lifestyle. And, and seeing her, you mentioned this earlier, seeing her, just feel better and be so much more active. And it's just awesome to see. And we're on a journey too, but I think that really another thing you said that I wanted to kind of bring this movie of like checking out and skipping things. Mm-hmm. There's a movie with Adam Sandler. It's a silly movie. Click. Yes. Yeah. You knew exactly where I was going. Where this dude's like, I don't want to take the time to spend, to spend the intimate time with my wife before. I just want to get to the end, And so he fast forwards through that. Then he fast forwards through this boring thing at work, and then he fast forwards through this. And then the remote learns his behavior and starts fast forwarding for him. And before he knows it, he's 60 years old and he's missed everything.
Yeah.
And if we're going through life just trying to make it to the weekend so we can go grab some beers with our buddies or watch the big sport or, the big football game on Sunday, man, that's a really, really, really purposeless existence. And
I call them NPCs, non-playable characters.
Yes. Yep.
Like they're just floating around, and like I learned this because we've always had our kid in private, and we went to public this year. And we're signing up, and there were like 3 people ahead of us. No parent had a job. They all got signed up on free everything, and they were as happy as can be. And I'm like, apparently you just don't have to work anymore. Like I think we're so over incentivized sometimes that like, why are we incentivizing laziness?
Yeah.
Like these people weren't disabled.
Yeah.
Hey, there's 100 places hiring right here in town. Yep. Can't find workers. And then you go around, I'm like, all these people, no wonder they're not getting jobs. They are literally surviving just fine by not having one. They both have cell phones. They get in a nice car. And I'm like, how does this work?
Yep.
How did we get here?
There's a famous story of Michael Jordan when he was in his championship heyday in the Bulls. He was walking down the street in Chicago, and this guy comes up begging money from him. And he's like, can I get $5? Can I get $5? He looks at the dude. He's like, you don't look like you're unhealthy or anything like that. It's like, well, if you can say, can I get $5? It's like, you can say, welcome to McDonald's. May I take your order? And I'm like,
good.
A lot of people
good.
are like, that's kind of a jerk move because he's a millionaire, but he's like, he didn't
handouts don't help people.
Correct. Yeah.
There are some times where you may get in a bind and
Absolutely.
you need extra help. Okay, that is very different from somebody like, I don't even work. And if I do have a tough time, it's not go get a job. It's, where's the freebies?
Yeah.
Like, you're not learning any lessons. And I think we can tie that back into spoiled children.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's, I love following Patrick Bet-David, and he makes his kids. I'm like, should we get that hardcore with our kids? I'm like, I like the style. Like, he'll go ahead and buy all this stuff. Like, they love Legos, right? So he'll buy these big $500-$600 Legos, and he'll put them on the shelf, and he'd be like, that's 50 books. You can have it when you read 50 books. And they read to earn things. Because he's like, I'll give you whatever you want. But you will read your way there. And they're like self-development style books, learning lesson books. So, cool. You can have anything you want.
My wife.
Oh, you want that new
love
bike?
that idea.
Great. Go ahead and get the bike. We'll set it right there. You ain't going to touch it till you read 20 books. That bike's $20.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to share this with my wife. She's an English teacher, and she wants our kids to read more. So this is a great idea.
This is so my oldest daughter is third grade, so it's diehard reading, and she's like, "This is so dumb. Why would I'm like, you see me and mommy read every day as adults. I wish I had more reading time. I'm like, how is this not translating?
Yeah.
She's like, well, those are probably good books, and these are not. And I'm like, you just need to learn how to read. So just read the words, and then you can actually read stuff to absorb things that help you in life. And I'm like, what's cool is you can learn anything you want. I was the biggest non-reader ever. I thought I hated reading. I'm like, I just had no interest in The Lord of the Flies or whatever. But I'm like, nonsense. I don't care. Now you start giving me business books or mindset books or things like that where I'm like, wow, crazy perspective. And then realizing like, hey, these genius people will actually condense all that they've learned into these books. And you can just hammer through them and like learn all these lessons. And then my brain was like, I can't consume enough.
Yep.
So
Yeah, there's a quote, I can't remember who said it now, but there's a quote that says 80% of your motivation to do anything comes from your expectation, what the result is. So, if your kid, expects a good outcome for reading books, all of a sudden they're very motivated, highly motivated to read books. Or, if you're, got health problems, you have a heart attack and almost die, you realize that now there's consequences, and I know what the expectation is, and it changes your performance level. If you think something negative is going to happen because of your behavior, you won't want to do it. If you think something positive is going to happen as a result of your behavior, you get motivated to do that. If somebody came to you and was like, hey, there's a guy down here at a bank that wants to loan you $1 million, for free as a grant. But you want to go down there real quick? You'd be like, get out of the way. I'm going down there, because you're expecting a positive thing. If somebody said, hey, why don't you go apply for this car loan, but your credit sucks, you're probably not, this is going to be bad. They're going to grill you over your money. You're not going to go down there because you're expecting something very negative to happen. So your motivation absolutely comes from what you believe, is about to happen. Your beliefs drive your actions. What you truly believe in drives what you're gonna do. And your performance level, if you really believe it, we tell guys in our concealed carry classes, a lot of people come out, they want to get concealed carry, they want to carry a gun, and they're kind of like, I don't really know why I want to do this. So they go to Rural King, they buy a $100 gun, and they buy some janky gear, and they come out to the range to qualify, and it's all, you can tell they haven't put a lot of thought into this. Probably because they don't really believe anything bad is going to happen to them. Yeah. If you're somebody that's been shot at or sexually assaulted or had really bad things happen to you, if you're a female that's been sexually assaulted in a parking lot somewhere and you decide, I need to do something about this. You probably go get to a jiu-jitsu class. You probably go take some concealed carry training. You actually do something and you take it serious and you do it like you mean it. If you actually believe what the result is going to be. And so it's a mindset thing, big time.
Everything is. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and this is what we tell our younger guys all the time. I'm like, it is a constant war in your mind. Like everything from negative talk to I can't do. I'm like, we all have that. Mm-hmm. Like, they're like, you don't have it. I'm like, I do have that. I'm really fast at swatting it now. Instantly. Like, but you still have like every run I go on, I want to quit at some point.
Yep.
But we ain't gonna. And I'm like, you have to reprogram your mind. And especially if you're one of these guys that are going to be taking action now of, hey, I do have to start, but stop procrastinating. Like, what kills procrastination? Start.
Action. Yep.
Action. Done. Killed. Squashed. Yep. But now, because, you know, we do a lot of challenges with our stack stores. And, you know, usually when people make their first mistake is when they want to quit. And a lot do just on their first mistake because they think everybody's perfect. And I'm like, that's a stumble. That's life. Course correct instantly. Like, it's not a game changer. Like, if you're eating 5 meals a day, 7 days a week, okay, that's 35 meals. Even if you mess up 33 out of 35, you'd say it's pretty good, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, great. Learn to course correct. Learn to battle that voice of, hey, was that worth it? Was that brownie worth it? Like when you go do your check-in, you're like, was it worth it? And then you start seeing the tipping point, kind of like you said earlier on the calories. You're like, whoa, didn't realize that I was getting that dessert. I didn't realize that was like 3 meals I could have.
Yeah.
Now you start, like, hey, is this worth it? Like, I don't think so. Hey, we don't do that anymore. It's not worth it. Like, I don't drink alcohol. Like, it's just not worth it to me.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing good that comes from it for me.
Right.
So it's like, okay, I just don't do that anymore. And like, people are scared to like, quit stuff that doesn't serve them because a lot of, you know what we do in our New Year's resolutions? We don't talk about goals because those are always set previously, but we do reevaluate habits that don't serve us anymore. So, good. Okay, what are we doing that may have served us a year ago that just isn't anymore? Like one of the things my wife, you know, I don't want to speak for her if she's given it up or not, but like she had to, for a while, start waking up at 3:30 to do her morning workout because that was the only time during the day. What also is getting to a point now, I'm like, hey, I don't think you have to do that anymore unless you love it, unless you love 3:30. But it's things like that like we get stuck in a routine. And it's like, no, this is what we do. And we're just robots. We're creatures of habit. And sometimes we just have to evaluate, like, what am I doing that's not serving me? Should I watch 3 hours of Netflix today? Or like, because I always laugh because like everybody that tells me they don't have time to work out, I'm like, oh, like TV, and they're like, spit off every favorite TV show. Boom, 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 boom. I'm like, You just don't want it.
Right.
Like we make time for what we want to do. You don't want to do it. But like, you know, and that's what I tell our guys that are in the early 20s. I'm like, if you fast forwarded 10 years and added up all your screen time that was just scrolling to oblivious, which literally studies show it just makes you feel worse about yourself, which is why depression's probably insane. Like, is it ironic? The more social media we get, the more connected we get.
Oh, preach.
The more depressed everyone is.
Yep.
And especially during COVID, like depression went through the roof.
Yep.
Through the roof. Nobody
you literally gave everybody, you know, as you DoorDash, you can have your food delivered to you. You have all these shows on Netflix that you can have endless catalogs of TV shows and entertainment you can fill your mind with. You have social media where you can still stay connected to people, know what's going on. And what happened? We gave everybody all of the comforts that you think they would need, and people had more to spare than they've ever had in maybe the history of humanity.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that's insane. Comfort's not the answer to it.
Comfort is not the answer.
Comfort is your enemy. Shout out to our new shirt.
T-shirt.
Coming
out soon.
It is your enemy. But like, we were, I mean, great topic, but we were born savages. Like, if you go back,
Absolutely.
Like, we had to hunt and kill. And yes, guess what? We ate meat.
Yep.
That we killed with our bare hands. And, you know, you look back and you're like, man, Do you think the internet has more upside or downside? Do you think? What do you think?
Oh, I would say definitely downside.
I think so too. I'm like, man, it is convenient a lot of times.
Oh, yeah.
But like, man, just watching it wreck children and like, you know, the more people we follow, because now we're getting to that phase with our oldest daughter of everybody's getting phones.
Oh.
Like, we're not doing phones.
Nope.
We don't do YouTube. We don't do YouTube. Like, we did it for a very brief stint, and our kids went insane. I'm like, they literally cannot handle it. Ban YouTube. Okay, we got some resistance for about a week. After that, they didn't
Outside
care.
and play. Mm-hmm.
And what's great, and then during COVID, we became camper family. And I tell you what, it brought me so much joy because I'm like, I always tell parents, I'm like, remember back in like the 90s where you just go to a park and you see all these bikes crashed everywhere, and you know, you're to be outside until it's dinner time.
Yep.
And we'll let you know when that is.
Yep.
But I'm like, it was such a good time. And when our kids are that way, our kids get along 1,000. And the second we get home, it's back to like, bruh, like now that they have, if they have, which we don't do tablets or anything like that, but even the TV time or whatever, like it becomes a battle. But yet when we cut those things away, they instantly would go outside at 7 a.m. play in the dirt.
Yep.
And everyone was so happy. They didn't bicker. They didn't whine. They didn't talk back. I'm like, they're completely different. So they're like, you're not going to let us have phones? Why no? Not doing social media either.
Yep.
Yeah, probably a very good decision. You know,
Just because it exists doesn't mean you have to participate.
Right.
Because there was a lady the other day that was, her and her husband don't do it. And their kids are teenagers. No socials. And she's like, you know what's funny? Everybody calls us so extreme. And 2 seconds later, they're talking about how their kids are so depressed and they have all this anxiety and all these issues.
All these bullies on
and
the
they're like,
on the
our
internet.
kids don't have that.
you're just old fashioned. I mean,
Yeah,
you think about
you got to get with the times. I'm like,
people call that
no, I
extreme,
don't.
but it's like it's almost like we're going back to what you would do if there wasn't electronics, if there wasn't, you know, all these options. You know, the internet offers all these great conveniences, but there's so many. It's like 5 million conveniences that get jammed into the limited space of time.
Yep.
And it's overwhelming. So many people have a very difficult time handling all that stuff. And I've said for years, if every satellite in the universe crashed and went out, I'd be totally fine. Like,
Yeah.
I'd be down with, you know, dialing on a phone, the rotary phones, you know, I'd be totally down, you know, with that style of technology, because it's overwhelming for a lot of people, and it's a lot of guys fall victim to that as well. And we try to shake people out of that. You know, we're doing some training at Tombstone Range where we have people. We're doing a tactical weekend here, you know, pretty soon, beginning of May, and we're just going to get guys out for 2 days on a weekend. We're going to shoot guns. We're going to sit around the campfire. We're going to cook food. We're going to just do guy stuff. And it's amazing after 2 days of that where people like reset. It doesn't take very long. You know, we think about this overwhelming impact that internet and social media has. You know, the human body's pretty good at shaking off stuff. And it doesn't take very long to start a new track. And we see just after a couple of days, people become just, you know, it's like they're revitalized, and all of a sudden they've got, you know, some purpose, and they've got like, man, maybe, you know, I need to do some more of this or that, or they set some goals. And so we're trying to do some things in that realm where we can kind of shake people up a little bit and kind of
that's awesome.
get them to reset their brain a little bit. But it's tough, man. It
is tough. And I think the more people have their phones in their hand, I'm like, you know, if you think about it, people just don't sit and think anymore. Because if you sit for a second, you're glued to a phone and it's thinking for you, and you have to be. And this is what we teach our kids and our guys. I'm like, you have to be so conscious of what you put in your brain too. I'm like, scrolling nonsense or scrolling news feeds, poison, like, they don't understand how big of a toll that takes. And it's like, I don't want to speak for all men, but I know for me and the men I'm around, solitude is a very precious thing. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm doing an Ironman in 49 days. So I've got a lot of solitude time, and people are like, you know, how's training going? I'm like, I have learned more about myself in one prep, which has been like 6 months at this point, than I did 10 years bodybuilding or any other time in my life. But I'm like, I spend so much time in solitude, and during these 5-hour bikes, I'm literally only consuming positive things that want to get me in the mindset that I want to be in, get thinking like I should be thinking, consuming stuff that people I look up to and are setting, an amazing example. And it's like, when you compound at this point, it's like 15 hours a week, but I'm like, that 15 hours of good content versus poison content. I'm like, and I'm not even saying, because people are like, well, should I consume stuff or not? I'm like, there's a time to, but it has to be tactical, just like anything else. Like, why watch Netflix for 2 hours that's just get your brain lost as compared to like getting it refocused, But
yeah, I thought you used to get the alerts on your phone, like your screen time was like 2 hours or whatever it was.
Yeah.
You're like, man, I could have probably learned Spanish in a month.
Yeah. In a month, like I would have nailed another language, but instead.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, missed an opportunity of that one.
But the good news is I know Aunt Martha's having a problem with her hip. I saw that on social.
And I think
great.
I think that really one of the things is, you touched on this just a minute ago, but people are dumber than they ever have been, and they have more information at their fingertips than they ever have. And I think there's a reason for that. You go back 150 years, and if you wanted to become a knowledgeable person, you had to spend time at it. You couldn't just go to the wizard on your special space box and type in words and say, "Oh, here's the answer."
Yeah.
You actually had to research. You actually had to learn about something. You had to read a book. You had to retain that information. Right now, it's like information in, information out. We have this ability to just plug in words and say, okay, nope, that's wrong, or yep, that's right.
And here's the bad thing. We're all becoming victims. And we can sit here as dudes and be like, our standards are higher and we're not going to fall
still
victim.
use Google.
And let me ask you this. I'm embarrassed to answer this. How many phone numbers do you know of your family members? I know my wife's phone number.
Yep.
I know a couple of my kids' phone numbers. I could probably maybe 10 phone numbers.
Yep.
And we see this from people we'd arrest all the time. You'd bring somebody in, arrest them. Like, hey, you make a phone call? Yeah.
Can you get my contacts?
They don't know. They don't know one. I've dealt with hundreds of people. They don't know not one single phone number of anybody.
Wow.
Not their wife, not their
still
girlfriend.
know Quattro's phone number.
And sing that one, right? Yeah, absolutely. So, but it's like, okay, how many contacts do you have in your phone? I've got like over 1,000. Who's gonna memorize 1,000 phone numbers? Yep. Nobody. So that's where the information just jams into us all the time, and it forces us to not be as smart as we want to be, because it's just so much information, and you realize it's overload. It's like, there's no way I can keep track of all this information, so I'm just gonna dump it in this thing, and I'll just go find it later. So we all fall victim to that. I'm not saying we should memorize 100 phone numbers every night. We could probably do that if we stopped watching Netflix for 2 hours and started doing that. But it's
But the principle of the whole thing is that we should seek out those older paths, the way that people got knowledge for centuries before we had the internet. Was to dive into a book. Read a book, engage, learn something that is tangible that you can hold on to. And I'm not a reader myself. This year, I think I'm at book 3, and I wanted to read at least a book a month. And that's because I'm not historically a person that likes to sit down and read. But it's like, lean into that weakness and start to cultivate your mind. And the more you do it, the more you enjoy it.
Yeah.
The more you're like, man, I get so much more out of reading than I do just typing in on a search engine.
Yeah.
And trying to find the answer. Because you're searching for the answer, but you're engaging your senses in it.
And I think when you're reading a book, it's kind of like a long form podcast, right? Like versus read subtitle that gets you the answers versus what's the backstory and the why and all the other dimensions to the question. And I think that helps us memorize a lot more. But I think it's funny what you said, because it's like, it does seem that we're in like the dumbest time, but yet information's never been more available.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is kind of wild, isn't it? Like, how did we get here where you can learn anything in 30 minutes, but yeah, we don't know anything.
Yep. It's crazy. I always, back when COVID hit, I don't know if I became like I don't know if prepper is the right word, but I started, the
Hey,
grocery
we
store-
were all preppers. Like,
you were
toilet paper.
insane
Insane if you weren't a prepper.
How many
then.
rounds of
Toilet
ammunition do I
paper,
have in my
right?
basement?
So I thought, well, I need to get, some propane tanks. I need to get, a few things here. So I was getting some supplies.
Toilet paper.
Rattled
Lots of
up.
toilet
Yeah,
paper.
clearly that was.
One of the things I thought was, if the old interwebs goes down, how's anybody going to figure out? You can't do research on how to, change a radiator in your truck anymore if you don't know how to do that. Where are you going to get that information? And so I got a 3-ring binder, and I started getting information like how to wire, your house, how to build, construction stuff, like physics note cards, formulas and stuff like I need, information on the Constitution and government, like. What if we got to start?
I don't know. Do we use that still?
What if we got to start?
I think that's banned now.
Oh, okay. To save democracy.
But I thought, you need to have some hard copy stuff laying around
Yeah.
of what, I'm not a doomsdayer, but
I'm a realist.
cell phones
Yeah.
all went down a couple weeks ago for a lot of people. And that was just,
That wasn't weird.
One day things are fine. Next thing, oh crap, nobody's got a phone that's working anymore. Like, ooh, and you don't think this is a possibility that could ever happen again? So, different podcast topic.
Yeah,
maybe.
sure.
But,
When my phone came up, I was one of those. I was a victim of that. Whenever my phone came up, the first thing I was like, "How to get a ham radio license?"
Yes,
That's awesome.
it was listening to you talk
Yeah.
about we need to do something about this. And
I am a little bit of a prepper, but anyways, so yeah, that's that. Man, I think that all of these things that we've talked about tonight are just it's like, man, we could go on for 4 hours.
I think
about
it's
this
cool.
stuff.
I love how people are going to listen to you, Matt, and understand that you're a motivational dude. Like because you've got a very high standard. It's cool to hear stories about your business and how your employees, like, hey man, do something for other people. Pick up that piece of trash. It has nothing to do with you or your job, but do that thing. People are craving, I think, that attitude. They want to be a part of that culture. So what you're doing in your business and personal life is setting an example and being a standard, and that motivates people. Are, I think, craving that. They want to be around high standard, motivational people, even if they're not necessarily that person. Everybody's just needing a little nudge, and whether you know it or not, whether you're around people that are looking for that, if we can all start to try and be that person, all of a sudden it starts to snowball and has a chain reaction effect. So I appreciate the fact that you're really influencing people in your sphere of influence to be better people.
Can I share a story on that real
Absolutely.
quick too? We say it a lot at True Test. It's kind of like becoming our motto. We did not come up with it, but it's just an amazing story. It's actually Damon West's quote, but he talks about be a coffee bean. And he describes it as, you can put a carrot in boiling water. It gets soft. You can put an egg in boiling water and it gets hard. You can put a coffee bean in boiling water and it's the only one that will actually affect the area around it. So he's like, be a coffee bean. And for us, it's the impact that we're trying to make is we love brick and mortar. We love community. I love in person. I'm not a fan of e-com. Done it. Like there's not that real, I just love people.
Yep.
So the impact that we're trying to make is be the coffee bean, and our stores and clinic to us are massive coffee beans, and all of our customers, we want to be coffee beans, and it's affect the people around you in a positive way. And it is in stages. And it's like, you just have to, because here's what I see, because let's take me training for this Ironman, for example. I started running. Nobody in our company were runners. Now everyone's running, right? They're like, man, I've had the biggest breakthrough. I've learned so much about myself, all these things. I'm like, you just start infecting everything around you. And I'm like, the higher I raise the standard, okay, we did 12-hour Tough Mudder. Okay, that was hard. All right, how do we one up that? Oh, now we're going to do a full distance Ironman. Cool. The higher that I go, everyone around me, you don't have to say anything. I didn't ask anyone to do anything. I didn't ask anyone to sign up for that. I didn't ask people to start running. But when they saw what the effect that it was having in me, it started changing the people around me.
Absolutely.
So you as the man, you're the most influential coffee bean for sure. Like, people do look for you to the answers. You are the protector. You are the provider. You are the standard holder. So we have to start with just affecting our little coffee pot, if you will, which is our household. And it's like everything stems from that. And I just hear so many people have, but what impact could I have? I don't have influencer employees like you do. It doesn't matter. Like, we all have to do our part, and I think people may not get as motivated because they don't feel like it. I'm like, well, everyone starts by influencing the next person, right? Yep. But I promise you start elevating your life, people will elevate around you. Yep. It's just natural. Like, men are competitive. Mm-hmm. They should be competitive. So it's like, I love hanging around friends that are like, man, you did what? Oh man, no, like, all right, I see you. But like, it's this fun competitive where people are driving everybody around them and infecting everybody around them. So I just love that analogy so much. It's
that's good.
That's so cool.
Just be the coffee.
There's a verse in the Bible that says, do everything as if you were doing it for God himself. And you think, wow, every single job, initially basically what that means is you're doing everything the very best you could possibly do it. Mm-hmm. If True Test hires you to be a front desk employee and you say, you know what, the first job I have for you is actually I need you to clean the bathroom. Mm-hmm. Clean that bathroom the best it's ever been cleaned in the history of bathroom cleaning. Like, do every job. Maybe that's not what you signed up for, but all right, or if I got to sweep the floor, if I got to pick up trash, if I have to do whatever, it needs to be the best job I can possibly do. And as a mindset, I think it's critical to, it's not all about us. It's not about me. It's about, if you're working in a business, it's about the people that are coming in there to buy stuff, or maybe it's the people that you're working with. And, I used to tell my kids a lot, at the end of the day, when it's all over, you should be able to answer the question, what did I do for somebody else today? Was there one thing that I did for somebody else that it wasn't just focused on me? And all of a sudden you start making other people important and focusing on them. And all of a sudden, you start doing good. People see that as well. And that is influential, and that changes people. And all of a sudden people want to help you out. It becomes a team environment, and weren't even trying to do that. So, doing the very best we possibly can is infectious. It's a coffee bean analogy, big time, all day long.
Yep. And that's, man, that's, like I said, we could go on for 4 hours about this. And I think it's a really, really important topic. And I'd like to just thank you for coming in and being a part of this. And hopefully we see you down the road and talking some other stuff. We'll love to have you back because you motivated me tonight, and just to change the standard in my household. I think that's probably the biggest thing that men could take away from this, is that we are the standard bearers, we're the standard setters. Yep. So set a standard for yourself and lead your family.
Yep.
So we're going to leave it at that, but I
appreciate it, brother.
Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
I think let's give you a chance to tell everybody how to follow you, how to get in contact with you.
Yeah. Instagram, is Mr. Stacked.
Yep.
You can find me on Facebook as well. But and then the companies that we do have, if you are somebody that's looking to take the next step, at True Test, we do free consultations. You can come in, you can get blood work, you can talk to a physician, go over like, hey, am I fixable? Which you are. But they can give you that game plan for free, and you can take it with a grain of salt, or you can take action. And the same thing at Stack. We have body scan machines. The guys will give you, nutrition advice, meal plans, everything for free. So there are a lot of free tools available if you're looking to take the first step in, just leveling up and raising that standard. So, and that's what we try to be, is, that resource as much as we can.
Yep. That's awesome. And if you guys are, I think most of your stores are in the Midwest. You have some outside of the Midwest.
Yeah, we have some outliers. We have some clinics in Texas, California, and we have some supplement stores in the great state of Montana.
Wow.
And that was just hey, I just want a reason to come visit. The air is different there.
Yeah, but if you're local, local to one of those stores,
Marion, Carbondale, Paducah, Cape.
Yeah, and go in, They're trying to build a brand and a company that stands for good values, and I hope you guys will support them. We're going to go ahead and give a shout out. We've got some of our trainings out on our website. So if you go to righteoussavages.com, on our training page, we have some of our firearm training classes are coming up starting in March 23rd, which is weekend after next. But it'll probably be closer to that by the time this episode gets out here. We got some in April, and then we got our big tactical weekend in May. There's limited spots for that. So if you guys are interested in that, we definitely would say go sign up on either our page or the Tombstone Gun Range page. You guys can get on there and reserve your spot. We would love to have some of you guys come out and do some of that training. It's going to also be, we're going to bring in some faith and some of this motivational aspect that we've talked about tonight about how we get engaged. And but that's all we've got for tonight. Remember, as you go, to take Jesus wherever you go and to act like you believe. We'll see you guys next time.